Okay, I'm going to restore this original 71 cluster. This is from my Catalina. It was a clock delete, very basic. It came with a moth from the speedometer. That's very important. I'm going to be probably only reusing the speedometer in this because I would like the original odometer reading for the car. And the housing, as you can see, is pretty filthy. The circuit board is in very nice shape, so I'll be using that as well. I'll just pick the best housing I have from a 71. Also, the YA sticker is not even visible anymore, hardly. So I'll be replacing it with one that has a YA also. Although it's probably not date correct, but whatever. So I'm going to disassemble this now. Start by taking off the lens. I already removed the gear selector indicator. And I'll be restoring those as well. Very bad GM design. These just have like little push pins that you can see what I'm doing here. Just kind of give it a little squeeze, push it through, pops right out. There's 4 of these for eye protection. And last but not least, I'll probably save this one for another, if someone wanted a clock delete, because I will be adding a clock on this cluster. So I'm going to leave that little pin, that little plug that they put in the hole there. And I will clean this up at a later time. The moth is free of charge. And this just lifts off. And then we got the little paper for the lights. And again, I'm not going to use this housing because it may not be rusty, it may just be filthy dirty, but I guess I could reuse it. But this is pretty filthy too. I've never actually taken one apart that had the clock delete. So we shall see what... Interesting. I'm going to put a tack there, I guess, or put a clock. But I'll be testing the fuel gauge as well. And again, I just want to keep the original mileage because I believe it probably turned over. It probably had 132,000 miles on it, not 32, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm going to keep that. And so next I'll pop all the bulbs out. Probably will be replacing all the bulbs with LEDs. But for right now, I just want to get everything off of here, so I can clean it up real good. Again, this is in pretty nice shape. A lot of times these are, well, this is starting to delaminate, but I've got some that are completely, almost two layers have separated from each other. The copper's all in nice shape on this one. So there's just a couple of screws here. We got to remove all the screws. That is for the fuel gauge. I want to make sure we don't distort that too badly. They distort the hell out of it here. Can't really tighten that sucker. Saving that. And then we'll remove the clock delete, which is actually a 1/4 inch. Interesting. And then the gas gauge, which we will test. Okay, we'll test the original gas gauge of the car. See what we got. So that's disassembly. Okay, I've decided to try to clean this up with just some WD and a rag. We'll see if I can reuse this cluster or not. I kind of wanted it to look a little nicer. Let's see if this comes clean. I don't want to take any steel wool to it right now either, so looks like it might come clean here. Maybe a scour pad. I'll grab one.
I want my wrapping paper downstairs.
Okay, put myself a scour pad here. So this is coming off. I want to get the face of it dirty. That's pretty good. Now I'll wipe out the inside, just a little Windex on a paper towel. Make sure there's no dust left behind. I got some stains on the Speedo. Trying to avoid actually wiping the white painted area. Abandon the paper towel. I'd say that's looking a lot better. I'll set this aside. If I had the side to set it. This is the original, which I'm not going to use because there is a crack here. So I will borrow one from another car, which I have 25,000 of. Well, it's already cleaned actually. Egads. I'm going to go wash this with some soap and water before I clean it. Okay, I gave it a wash. Removed all the dirt. Some mild soapy water. I'll set that aside. here's a fresh lens. I just washed a bunch of these. And this one's got some light scratches on it, but I think this is good enough for the car, certainly. I'm going to give it another once over with the polish. In this case, I use a Flitz polish. It's good for metal, plastic, and fiberglass. Just take a little bit on my finger and kind of evenly spread it over the surface. Once this is done, we'll test the gas gauge and we'll make sure that I got a good working clock. The clocks I repair just with cleaning all the gunky stuff out of them after I open the case. And then the little silicone lubricant goes a long way. Blow out any of the residual, apply the lubricant again. Got to be careful though, they're very delicate mechanisms. So I'm just going to make a kind of circular pattern here. I like to do it in kind of circular patterns. Just kind of helps blend. You don't have any straight lines going through it, which are very visible. At least if they kind of follow the contour. They're not as prominent. I'll take some of that residual. Just rub it on the back side here. Now we need to take a nice dry rag. And just a little bit of muscle. You don't want to put too much pressure on it because you don't want to snap the plastic. This will help get all the light surface scratches out. If you had deeper scratches, you could always use like a very fine sandpaper, and then you have to polish it a couple times. It should look infinitely better than it did. It's looking better. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 times to polish it before it comes out to your satisfaction. Important thing is to wipe all the residual stuff off. And then go with the cleaner part of the rag. It just helps if you turn it a little bit in the light. You can see if you missed anything. Usually it's just not wiping off some of the residue good enough, and you can see the streaks on it. They're getting in there, getting in all the crevices. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that that's quite an improvement to where it was. This actually started looking like this, so it just takes a little bit of cleaning. Actually, I had set this one down over here. Gotta get this out of the way now. A little bit more maybe in this quadrant here. You can kind of see some scratches. I don't know if you can see those or not, but I mean, for a 52-year-old part, it doesn't look too shabby. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Set this aside. Okay, next I've got the dummy lights. The interesting thing between the 71 and the 72. This is actually from a 72, so I'm glad I just noticed that. It's got it says gen for generator instead of amp for amperage, obviously. And then the orientation of the font. 72 they moved to vertical on the oil and temp, and on the 71 you can see that it's all, the orientation is all horizontal, depending on how you look at it, obviously. But the font is arranged in such a way. So this is the original one from the car. It looks like I could probably get by just cleaning this up. We'll check it out. And you just want to be careful not to put anything abrasive over the white lettering. So in this case, I will just take my damp cloth that's already been, spray a little bit of Windex on it. And I'm just going to, again, try to avoid the white painted areas. Just kind of clean it up. Okay. So that's pretty good. Okay. Now the original gas gauge from the car was here. Let's test it, see what's going on. Got the original gas gauge. Now on the gas gauge, the power goes on the driver's side. Obviously this is empty. This is the driver's side. So take our power wire from our 12-volt source. So this mess a little bit here. Power wire goes on the driver's side. Not holding that wire there. Ground wire off the potentiometer. Goes on the passenger side. And normally this is grounded in the cluster itself, which is grounded to the part of the dash brackets. But in this case we don't have that, so we're going to put our ground wire directly on that extra terminal that normally is not used on the printed circuit board. I could also just obviously attach a ground to the case itself, but this is joined to the case itself. So there you have it. Turn on our 12 volts, and it should right now be in the empty position, so that needle should swing to empty if it's working. I'd say that's on empty. Let's give it half a tank of gas. And let's fill her up. I've probably removed about a dozen of these from clusters, and I have not found a bad one yet. I imagine if they get wet, you know, if the dashboard is destroyed because the window is leaking, water gets in there, I'm sure that they can be destroyed, but I've never seen one yet, and I've had some pretty bad clusters. And again, empty. So I'm going to reuse the original gas gauge from the car. Power. I did already have this clock running, but we're going to test it again. I might end up putting a tack in the middle of this anyway and not utilizing the clock. But right now, I'm going to stick with the clock. On your face. And we have a clock. let it go through complete cycle. In fact, let me put a nut on the end of it. We'll see if we can keep it going for a matter of several minutes. I'll do a little speed up of the video. So this is all clean now, the base is clean, and I can start to assemble this whole thing again. Nice and snug, don't over tighten it. Yeah, it looks like the clock is averaging about 1:15 or so. The last one might have been closer to 2 minutes. So far I've reused the original gas gauge, and I have put a restored clock in here. Not sure what the clock came out of, but they all seem to be the same. The only difference in the clocks, if it has actual gauges and not dummy lights, these slots are like configured in a different area, and there's a whole center section like that that would fit in, and everything is screwed into that at that point. Okay. I want to over tighten that, but just get it nice and snug. This is slipping. Okay. So now we've got our gas gauge. Put this in here, like so. Some little holes that got to line up. Everything lines up nice. Now the actual face, which I won't put the plastic on yet. Got a safe spot. We need our little tubes. In this case, grab the nicest, whitest ones I got. These only go in one way. Of course, I feel like they're a little swollen right now for some reason. I believe that's everything that goes in. up everything. That. Looks like it's lined up. Okay, everything appears to be lined up. Pretty clean. Okay, next I can put this on. Now, normally there's a tab here that should be folded over, so I'll probably do that first. I say normally because if someone was in here before, odds are it could be broken off. I'm looking for some tool to use so I don't damage this or damage myself in the process. I'll do this side first so it can't go anywhere. Alright, that's one. And this guy over here. Let's say that's good. Now we can put our plastic over it. Make sure that there's no residual polisher. So where is it? Good. Okay, let's get out my little clips, which I shot one across the room a few minutes ago. I have extras. Good shape. Corners. Okay, that's on, and then what also holds it on obviously is when you screw it into the dash. But in addition to that, there's the gear selector, which I want to get into in a second. So, okay, the problem with these gear selector indicator pieces are, this is all plastic. The way this was set up, this is like a stranded wire. There's usually two pieces on there. In most cases you only see one. Other cases you won't see this end crimped on anymore because they actually break. What happens is over time, this is like a saw, and it saws through that plastic. And you can see if you're trying to go through the gears, it's getting stuck in the plastic because it's actually sawing it. So what I did was I thought maybe I can put some kind of collar on top of here, but the problem is this is kind of tapered out at the base. And there's a couple protrusions here that kind of give it strength so this doesn't just crack right off. And so you have to make a couple of relief cuts. There's one here, and then there's one like at the 90, which is it's a little bit further down. So what I did was I made a sleeve just out of some like flashing metal. And I bent it, a fuel line, like a 3/8 fuel line is exactly the right size. And by putting that sleeve over this, and this one's just loosely put right now, I'm going to scuff it up and add some glue to hold it in place. But what that sleeve allows you is just total freedom. You can see that there's no binding anymore. You can hear it's like you can hear it's like a saw. But a lot of times when they get stuck in there, and you're shifting gears, obviously it's very easy for this to snap right off. And you can even see where the metal has kind of lost some of its strength here. I've only got a few of these. I've got a ton of broken ones that I've taken off these clusters. So I'm going to eventually figure out how to make these. I mean, here's one with the actual screw, which is good because I was worried I didn't have a screw. So this is probably going to be the one I'm going to use on the car. I'm going to transfer that sleeve onto here, and then eventually I'll be making another video showing you how to make those out of some type of very thin sheet metal. you don't have very much room in here. I don't know if I'm getting a good shot of this, but you don't have a lot of space in between here to get a metal through there, because the double-stranded wire's got to go through there. But as you can see, it's stuck right now. It's like sawing a hole through there. And in fact, in a lot of cases, you can see little pieces of plastic in there from the shrapnel, if you will. So that is not good. You don't want to. This would break in a second if I tried to install this on the car like that. Look, it's not even returning all the way. It's totally stuck in there. There we go. So I'm going to be putting that sleeve on this one. This is a much cleaner unit. So I'm going to use this guy, and then this will go on some other cluster that I'll have up for sale. So let me pop that piece off here. Basically, it's just the sleeve. It started, this was closed, and you can see how it is tapered. As you can see, it's wider at the base. And then this other cut allows you to go around that other extruded piece that's on there. And you can see where the wire has been making contact on here, how it's kind of polished this already. So I will be putting a little bit of grease on there as well once it's in place. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to scuff that up with just some sandpaper and probably use a little bit of glue on it, just so it's peace of mind. And then as far as these go, I'll make another video where I show how to make these. Again, I want to keep any Windex away from the lettering. They really did a bad design on this. They changed the design 73 and just much better. There's nothing for that wire to really contact with. So they probably realized after testing this for a while that it will not hold up. So I'm very surprised to see any have held up. I mean, you can change that wire if you get one. It does come off of here. It's just kind of lassoed on there, and there's a little notch. So all you got to do is kind of feed it through here on this way, and then you can latch it on there. Just hold the needle in place with something. But I am just going to clean this up, and we're going to put this right on the gauge cluster, and I will consider it finished and ready to install in the car. Again, I'm not going to put the printed circuit board back on now, because I want to get all LED lights. And then in a lot of cases, some of these sockets, the light bulb will test good, but when you hook it up to the socket, it doesn't work, because there's some oxidation on the terminals that hold the bulb. So once all these bulbs are out, I'll go over it with some emery cloth and clean up all those terminals that hold on to the bulb inside there. As you can see, even the bulbs themselves, the terminals on them don't look very good. So I'm not going to reuse any of these. I'm going to completely go to LEDs. I know LEDs, I'm pretty sure that they have ones that are dimmable, because you'd want that obviously. And then the other thing is they have to be in a certain way. They need the positive and negative a certain way in order for some of them to work. So I'm not going to put the bulbs back in. I have quite a collection of these sockets, and bulbs that are bad and bulbs that are good. But again, sometimes they don't work in the socket because of the oxidation. They might have gotten wet at some point. But we'll test all that later. So for now, let me finish up with the cluster here. Move on. Okay, this one, as you can see, must have been in maybe a colder climate car where it came from, because you don't see much of the discoloration that you see in that other guy. So perhaps they came from two different parts of the country. Now you can see there's a lot of fallout in here, a lot of debris. It's probably pieces of the wire and the plastic. So let's just give it a once over with the rag here. And then I will be scuffing this up. I gotta find my glue though. I'm pretty sure I have it down here somewhere. Appreciate if you stayed with me up to this point. I try to edit some of the video to move some parts along a little quicker than they normally would be, just filming it in real time. You don't have to watch the gas gauge go up for 2 minutes. But I would say this is pretty good. There's a little blue lens inside here, but that doesn't look like much dust was able to get in there. So I'd say this is pretty good, and I'm ready to go with it. I just want to scuff this up and see if I can't glue something in there. So let me see what kind of sandpaper I have here. I'm doing a good job getting some material off of there. Just want to get some roughness on the piece. I would say that's pretty good. So I think that as far as the glue is concerned, I think I'm just going to put it on the very tip of this piece. So when I slide that over it, I really just don't want it to pop back out. I don't think it would pop back out because it is, it is kind of, it's thin material, but it's kind of strong. Again, I thought about just getting a sleeved, like a sleeve that would fit over that, but it's tapered at the bottom, so either way it would kind of, I don't think it would make it. So hopefully the glue is good. Again, I will show you how to make one of these sleeves. I'll do a separate video. And I just want to put a little bit on here, just enough. You know what, if I don't act quickly, it looks like this stuff is already setting up. Alright, that should be good. Just want to give it a little bit of holding power there. It's already stuck on there, so that's good. I'll put this where it goes, on the other side of that, and hopefully we still have, yes we do, very nice section there. So okay, it's on there. I am going to put a little tiny bit of grease so I don't have to worry about it again. Okay, I have a little bit of white lithium grease. Feel how this is kind of kinked where it's been sawing through the plastic. I don't know if there's some plastic residue that's in there. It looks like I'm getting it out. I hope it's not the actual cable that's unraveling. Doesn't feel like it is. Feels like it's bits of plastic in there. So in this case, maybe a little WD would be the best thing for that. Probably should have just taken the cable off, but no, now it's actually very smooth. So it was just a bunch of plastic that's in there. I should use my fingernails. Much better. Much better. You can see the plastic even in here. Pretty messy stuff. Much nicer. Alright, let me attach this to the cluster after I clean my hands. Oh, should be okay. I got it. Yep, it's in there. Okay, so there you have it. Try to get the amp off of that. A very clean 71 cluster. I kept the original speedo with the original mileage on the car. I replaced the broken parts. The clock didn't have a clock, so I put a clock in there. Got the clock delete lens cap cover to still restore, and as well as the clock filler piece that came out of this one. So I will be replacing all the bulbs, and then I'll be putting the LED bulbs in there, and I'll put the circuit board back on after that fact. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe to the channel for notifications on this project's progress and other how-to videos. Thanks.